Okay, now.
Okay, hello everyone. Today we have a very special guest. We have ANAND SONI with us today, and we're gonna discuss very interesting topic about business CFO. Thank you for joining us, ANAND.
Thank you so much, Mohammed and Jishan. Thank you so much.
ANAND, I see business CFO is a very interesting topic. What is business CFO? And how do you see this role in the current times and in this decade? Also, do you think it is different to the normal CFO roles that we are familiar with?
Thank you, Mohammed, for the very pertinent question. Before I start, I think for everyone to understand where I'm coming and what perspective I'm going to bring to the table, well, I have diversified business experiences of different businesses. So whether it is manufacturing, contracting, construction, trading, health services, petroleum, refinery, stock market. So Mohammed, give me the business, I will handle. So that's where I'm coming from. And what today I'm going to talk about is pure what I've seen over the last, I've been in the UAE for the last 50 years and in the Middle East for the last 20 and been at CFO level for the last 10 years. So it's going to be coming from my head and heart, whatever we're going to discuss. Yes, so going back to your, what is this business CFO and what is the role in this current times and the decade and how is it different from CFO? I think most important point is we need to understand the expectations from the CFO have undergone a big time change in the last at least 5 years. And you know, there are two broad preambles which a business CFO is expected to do. First, regardless the business model you are into, the various models which I explained to you, or regardless the type of the situation, you are supposed to take the business from the first level to the next level. Now, what does that mean? Well, it simply means if you are into a survival stage, you take the business to the consolidation stage. If you are in consolidation stage, you take the business to the growth stage. And if you are in growth stage, you take it to the acceleration stage, right? These are various phases anytime. That's first main responsibility of the CFO in the changing times. The second is he is still supposed to be the custodian of risks, which means he is supposed to mitigate against the risk in all these businesses. So Mohammed, if you put all these, both these preambles together, we are looking at a situation where a business CFO is expected to maintain the various phases of a business and also manage their business risk. Now, well, if this is what is expected from a CFO, then you have to be a business CFO. I really don't see there's any other option but to be a business CFO. So what is this business CFO? Well, business CFO, considering these two bullet points, is the one who obviously needs to understand the business from the financial and commercial perspective, getting down into the nuances of business, deep dive. And let me give you a few examples from my experience. Now let us see, let's take an example of trading business, which has, you have showrooms, retail showrooms, you have distribution, and you have joint venture. Now, as a CFO, what will be your suggestion? When should someone go for retail? Now, Mohammed, if you are having a business which is B2B, a typically interior fit out, joinery, where your end client is the ultimate corporates, that is B2B. So you need definitely that time showrooms, right? Change the gears, move to health sectors, okay? Or move to typically standard medicines, where the end user is the consumer, in which case your business model is B2C. Now, what do you do now? If it is B2C, retail showrooms won't work. You need distribution centers because it has to reach the end consumer. Let's take another example. You know, in the current times, when the revenue is under so challenged, the pricing is a big time issue. typically a bookish CFO or a non-business CFO will probably look at the P&L and it will tell you, look, these are my overheads. This is what I'm supposed to recover. Here's the pricing. But in one of my organizations, when the revenue was under stress, and when the board asked me, what should we do? Well, I suggested to them something which is known as a minimum variable pricing model, which means you recover only the variable expenses. And what happens? You penetrate the market, your revenue goes up, and you are keeping your head above the water. So great. Let's look at another example. Assuming you are into interior fit out where you are buying bought out items. A simple bought out items will give you probably a limited revenue. But if you are a business CFO and who understands the business, he will tell you, take this bought out items and add value in an upholstery to get a better product. Now, can you just envision the various examples which can lead to a situation of a business CFO contributing in the business? One very typical point, Mohammed, as I am thinking, is the cost of goods sold. And you see, even in your business, Mohammed, or even in anyone's business, the first thing when we guys are asked, can you really bring a cost of goods sold down? And you know what is the first response? Oh, this you cannot do it. We finance experts are great when it comes to selling and distribution, or when it comes to any other. But ask them, can you do something on the cost of goods sold? Answer is no, we can't do it. Why? Because they have not taken the pain to go to the shop floor, understand the product mix, and then contribute. And if you can do that, trust me, regardless of business model, you can significantly achieve a lot of savings. Trust me, a lot of savings in the cost of goods sold. The another example of a business CFO, apart from the growth aspects which I just mentioned to you, can be from the risk, because I mentioned to you the two main requirement from the business CFO is growth management and the risk management. Let's talk of risk now. If you are a business CFO and you have collections as a real challenge for you, right? Right now, if you understand the business well, you will know that every party in the collections needs to be dealt separately. You can't paint every debtor with the same brush. What works for you may not work for the neighbor next door. Now, how do you suggest those collection practical strategies? Again, when you understand your business and when you understand the business of your debtor too. This is the trick. This is the trick. And then you can suggest to your sales team, to your collection team, what sort of strategies you can. And can you believe, I have worked out some 18 strategies which can help in any business, combination strategies, and I'll be very willing to share with people if they want to understand it. Now, you see, this is what is the role of a business CFO. Now, has this role changed in the current times? Yes. Yes, it has changed in the current times. Now, how it has changed in the current times? It has changed in the current times for a couple of reasons. And I say current times means the current pandemic times. Two main things have happened which has ensured that the role of business CFO is going to change. What are those changes? One, in the earlier times, say before February, as a business CFO, I was doing what I mentioned to you. But now you are making your business, ensuring that you survive today and the next quarter. Give me anyone in this world who can confidently say what's going to happen after 6 months. So, which means what? There's a serious question on the going concern of your business, which was not there 4 months back. 4 months back, yes, there were risks even those times. I'm not saying that this is the first time we are tackling risk in this pandemic. Risk were there. But there's a significant difference now. Now, your risk assessment and your business has to be looking from the going concern. The survival is the key word. That's the buzzword. That's the buzzword. And what used to happen earlier? The earlier times, the risk were more from the strategic point of view, which means I have not seen anyone a year back would say, look, Anand, I think my business is in serious problems. I don't know what's going to happen after 1 month. Very few. The risk horizon was invariably strategic, maybe for 1 year, maybe for investment. Should you go for investment? Should you not go for investment? The horizon was 1 year. There was never a going concern in doubt. That's a significant change, which, again, going back, if you are a business CFO, you go into nuances, you maintain your 2 bullet points as your preamble, you will be definitely doing a better job now than any other CFO. And how has the risk perception changed for a business CFO in the current times? Yes, there is a risk perception change too, because, for example, I'm handling about 8 businesses in my organization. 8 businesses are under my belt, right? Now, when I look at a business which is trading and which has got many clients, in the current times when I'm managing cash flow, I will probably go to those clients which are trading. There are many clients we have, and I can sell any other ancillary products to those clients because I have got a big list of clientele. How do I do it? Because I understand the trading business of our group. Will the same thing apply for a construction business? Probably not, because in a construction business, typically you have, as a developer, your job is to build a structure. So can you appreciate the difference between knowing a business, like the way I mentioned to you, and how relevant it is even in the current times? So the bottom line is 2 points for you to be qualified, as a business CFO, and various examples which I gave you, they were valid pre-COVID, they're valid now, and how the role has undergone a change in the current times when it comes to risks, when it comes to increasing revenue, when it comes to going concern, and that's something very, very interesting, Mohammed.
That's very insightful, Anand. Actually, thank you very much for that great explanation of the real role of the business CFO. Anand, as I know that you are a head of finance for a big group in UAE, and how do you manage the relationship between the group ownership and the board? I know it needs a lot of efforts to manage the relationships between group ownership and the board. And as I know, it must be delicate relationships. What do you see it, Anand?
Well, if I have to answer you in a 1 sentence, if anyone tells you, Mohammed, as a business CFO, the job of managing the ownership and the board is easy, discount him immediately. Discount him immediately. That's not the fact. Well, I can keep talking till the time cows come home. I can give you examples. I can give you strategies. I can give you actions. But what's my bottom line? My bottom line is to see that I get my end results and I achieve my 2 objectives, even in current times, which means I will have to deal with my ownership and board. And I've been dealing with the ownership and the board for the last 15 to 20 years. I've dealt with many ownerships. Now, what are the challenges? Well, challenges are obviously you have to convince them. How do you do it? First, you need to be a good listener. You definitely need to be a listener. And this is not textbook. It's all coming from my head and heart. You need to be a good listener. You need to be ready with facts, figures, analysis, solutions. Have patience, persistence. So what does it really mean? When I say you're a listener, you listen to what they're saying. And if you think you have to change by all means. Change by all means. Because there is no ego space. Again, if your objective are the 2 which I initially started as a business CFO, there's no room for ego space. So if your board tells you something, please listen to them. And if you have to change, change. What are the actions? 2, ensure that whatever you're explaining to your board and the ownership has to be in the way they understand. Language is critical. I'm talking now, and if I can't make the audience understand what I'm saying, there's no meaning. There's nothing. So if you are in touch with the ownership and the board, explain them in the language in which they understand. Very, very critical. The other part is to deal with the ownership, you also have to equally deal with external stakeholders. Who are those external stakeholders, Mohammed? Well, It could be banks, it could be lawyers, even you are my external stakeholder. If I ask you, even you are, for me, even you are an external stakeholder. Or it could be, any third party. Now, you cannot deal with your internal stakeholders also of your other departments. So unless you manage your own team, your internal stakeholders of your group, external stakeholders, you cannot manage your ownership on the board. Now, what does that really mean? Again, and I'll give you an example. Let us say in the current times, everyone is talking to the bank for shifting the liability, for restructuring. Best thing is, if you can establish your ownership that you have sincerely made efforts in dealing with the banks as an external stakeholder, and as a business CFO, you have really made efforts, show the efforts to the ownership, listen to them carefully. Trust me, they will listen to you. But you have made an effort to show to the ownership how have the things progressed. Now that's something which most of the finance leaders don't do it. Either they're hesitant or they don't want, they have the ego space. But if you come out of that, you will find it extremely easy to deal with the external stakeholders' ownership. Now, one of the things which is of lot of importance to the ownership in the current times is the employment cost. And I have a different view here. It's very easy to put down the employment cost down, but if you are a business CFO, you will definitely go and tell the ownership, again, depending on the business which you are into. That's the main point. But probably you will go and tell them, look, why don't you go for something known as cash break-even point this current time, and then take a decision, right? So this is a story. Again, you won't find anything in the textbook, but it's not difficult. Ask me. I've been doing it for the last 15, 20 years. Does it excite me? Is it very challenging? Yes, it does excite me. Is it very challenging? Yes, it is very challenging. But then I think so long as you have the will, and so long you have the willingness to listen to others, willingness to change others, willingness to change yourself, and take every battle when you get up in the morning and when you go to work as a new battle, I think you can certainly manage the ownership. But as I explained to you, dealing with the ownership now is still more difficult than the earlier times, because the expectations, which I mentioned in response to your first question, are definitely different. So, well, you need to fine-tune your mechanism, so to say, to deal with the ownership, take care of internal stakeholders, take care of your external stakeholders, be open to change yourself. But if you're right, communicate your views to the ownership, keep persisting, have perseverance, and you will find that things getting going. Ahmed.
Thank you, Anand. I can see the role needs a lot of high qualities and special skills for this role. So should all finance heads strive to become a business CFO, or these qualities of skills only required for certain industries and certain companies? What do you see it, Anand?
I think you need to be, whether you are in any industry, I think you need to be a business CFO, because at the end of the day, your two main expectations from the CFO won't change. And how do you achieve it? Unless you go through the various examples, the relationship management, which I've explained to you, I really don't think so that it is specific to industry. I thought a lot about it, whether it is specific for trading, specific for contracting, or will you don't need these skills in a petroleum refinery business. And I think I'm convinced that if someone who wants to become a business CFO and want to make a real contribution, then you're not worried about what the situation is, whether you have the confidence to handle, then I think definitely you need to be a business CFO anytime, today, tomorrow, and yesterday.
Great. And as you know that we are working in HOFT to transform the skills, to transform the career for finance professionals, to improve their skills to be more finance professionals. So what is your advice to our young finance professionals, and what are the tips to help young finance executives to become a business CFO?
Right. Well, this is as good as asking me, how do you become a business CFO? And I'll be happy to share what I believe in. Well, there are a few things which I think we need to understand. First is, as I mentioned initially, as a business CFO, you need to get into the nuances of businesses. I explain you a few examples. Get into the business. Go deep dive on the financial and the commercial front, regardless the business you are into. That's the first point. To understand the process. Understand the process. And I may sound very, very naive, very, very naive and very, very basic when I say that understand the process, because I'm sure everyone will tell me, even an accountant will tell me, Anand, how come you are telling us to understand the process? And here is the catch. Now, I'll give you an example. Let us say if you are making a payment to a supplier who is an overseas supplier, all right? Now, if you understand how a shipping process works, remember how a shipping process works. When someone ships the goods, say from US to Dubai or anywhere, how does it work? What do you mean by birth of the vessel? Shipping. What is shipping? The shipping process. If you know the full process, you will be in the better position to understand how critical that payment is. Just an example. I spoke about collection some time back. If you know exact process of how the collection works through, what are the various methods of collecting money, you need to understand the process. It helps you, right? Now, so understanding the process is the second point. Third point is, do you know what exactly is the end result which you're looking? At the end of the day, Muhammad, again, I go back, we can keep debating, we can keep talking till the time cows come home, but where are the end results? We are all paid for getting the end results. So we need to know what is the end result expected. Now, either you should know it, and if you don't know it, go and ask your seniors or superiors, what is the end result? What is the end result? Today morning, I had an interesting case. My accounts manager came to me and said, look, this is what the bank has done it. I said, so what are you trying to tell me? What next you are supposed to do? Oh, I have to come and I have to get back and tell you back. Now, where was the missing link? He knew the process, okay? He knew the process, he understood the business, but he was not sure what he's supposed to do. So that's the end result. Now, the fourth is, even if you understood the end result, Muhammad, do you know how to reach to the end result? Knowing the end result is just doesn't make sense. Do you know how to reach to the end result? Very, very critical. And that's the fourth point. The example which I gave in the morning session, the manager accounts probably didn't know what is the end result and how he has to reach it. And then the fifth aspect is something which probably people may not accept what I'm saying, but I think I have to. You know, there's always a challenge when I keep saying that you go into the nuances. There's always a time element here. Please understand, at whatever level when you're investing time is money. So in our jest or in our enthusiasm to be a business CFO, or in our enthusiasm to understand the business in and out, what we should not be doing is get over involved in this, okay? Because the moment you get over involved, you are costing to the group. So you need to draw a line to what extent you can get into the nuances, okay? Because as a business CFO, you are supposed to be not bookish, but academic. Within academics, you have to be very strong. So if you are academic, very strong, you're not bookish, and you want to go into the nuances of business, you will be in the position to find out how much time you need to invest. For example, if you're in a production cycle, no point of going into details to understand everything what a production manager is supposed to do. And the last point, which I think is applicable to all of us, whatever you do, my friend, enjoy. You make a mistake, own it, learn it, move it, and again enjoy. I think that's the bottom line, because don't take it a burden. The rest of the things will follow. This is what I would suggest to people who want to become a business CFO.
Thank you, Anand, for those valuable advices to our young finance professionals. And you mentioned about getting nuances of business in your earlier answers, right? Does it mean CFO spending more time with other functions?
Well, there's no clear right or wrong answer to this, but on a very practical front, and again, it has to do with the business. First, in your enthusiasm to become a business CFO, you should not overindulge. That's something which I mentioned, but also you need to look at which business you are into and what is the financial health of the company. And let me give you an example. If you're in a construction company and there's a challenge, construction businesses in the challenge, then probably you need to invest more time. You need to make trips to projects. You need to be contacting the owners association once the building is built as a developer. So probably you may need to invest more time to get to know more about the business. But let us say if you're in trading business, which is a standard business, right? There's no need for you to get to know what is my 8,000 products, because if it's a standard product, you may have various products. Now you'll be wasting your time if you try to understand the history, civics, geography of all the 8,000 products. So that's the difference. So now, how do you judge it? Again, your experience, your willingness, and your cost-benefit analysis. So yes, you need to go into nuances, but you're not. I don't think you are supposed to go and go with everyone. The call is yours. The two examples which I gave you, I think that should help people. Yeah.
And Anand, I like your comment that you mentioned that business CFO cannot be bookish, right? But academically very strong. Okay, so are you not contradicting? Do you see any contradiction between not being a bookish but being academically very strong?
No, at all, not at all, not at all. Though I know again there are, I may sound a little controversial, but so be it. And I'll explain you why I say that you should not be bookish, but your fundamentals technically you need to be very strong. Now, what is this technically strong? I expect that the finance leaders are extremely good in fundamentals of accounting, finance, audit, these 3-4 pillar areas. Because if you are not technically strong, I don't think you can really get into the businesses. For example, the initial example which I mentioned to you, when I joined a manufacturing company and we wanted to bring the cost down on the cost of goods sold level. So I told you, I went to the site, I went to the production shop floor. But since I had the understanding of how the cost of goods sold comes in the P&L, right? So I could probably focus on what is relevant to me. Another company, which was a construction company, where you have a work in progress, which has element of so many payments you have made towards the subcontractors. Now, before I spoke to the subcontractors, I went to the BOQ, I went to the work in progress ledger account in your current assets in the balance sheet. So I was very clear what I need to discuss with the subcontractor. So there is a direct link between how strong you are technically, fundamentally, because that gives you the confidence, one, that gives you the edge, and that also gives you to what extent you should get into the business. And that's so I maintain that even if you don't have to be a bookish CFO, but definitely you need to be technically sound. Otherwise, you can't do all those things that I explained.
Thank you, Anand. And as you can see, there's a lot of debates between finance professionals about which one is more important. If it's the people skills or social skills nowadays is more important for finance professionals or the technical skills. What do you see it from your side?
Well, that's a $1 million question. I need to accept it, and I'll just give you a little example before I answer you. I think a month back I posted on LinkedIn about this topic, which I love so much, and then there were a lot of comments. A lot of people commented. I know, respect. There was an interesting debate. Something which you asked me just now about technical skills, people skills, technical skills. And I was in a minority. Can you believe I was in a minority? And I accepted it. I think most of the people felt that people skill are more important for a business CFO than a technical skill. I disagreed. I gave my reason on the post, but I'll mention again my reasoning, what I meant. if you ask me, both the skills are important. You need a technical skills and you need a people skill. So if you have to say, both are needed. If that is first option, both are needed. But if you ask me, if I have to pick one of the skills, that's where the debate went on my post. If you have to pick up one of the skills, I would certainly pick up the technical, the fundamental academic skills by few points over the people skill. I'm not saying by big number, but by few points, probably on a scale of 10, I would say that your technical academic skills should be 8, and people skill I'll accept 6, 6.5. So some points. Now that's very interesting to know why I think so. You need to understand one thing: the two main points as a business CFO. I get the business from one phase to another, keep going. That's one major expectation. And the second is the risk, right? Now, at times, if you're very good at the people, but if you're not technically sound, you may find it difficult to understand the nuances of the businesses. A few of the examples which I gave you, how the academic skills help in a construction company or a contracting company or accounting knowledge. So if you're academically confident, if you have good fundamental skills, you can still win over people. How will you win over people? Because my belief is that the best way in which you can win over your people, the team under you, is by demonstrating to them that you are the business CFO, not because the board has asked you to become the business CFO, but you truly are in the position, and you are in the position to solve their problems. An effective boss is one who can solve the problems of his team. He earns the respect. He doesn't demand the respect, right? And you earn the respect only and only when you are there as their boss, because you can solve the problems. While a simple people skill, to an extent, you will become very popular. People will like you, but can you get the end results? Can you get your message through? And the other reason is someone like me who's handling so many diversified businesses, I really can't manage 7 to 8 businesses by being people pally. I can't do that because I need to be first technically strong, then manage the people. Again, I'm not discounting it. People skill is equally important. And that is why I gave you a score that if I have to give a score, I will probably said how much, how many marks I said? I said 6.5 to people skill and 8 to technical. So you see the difference. It's like a T20 cricket match. Someone is, I'm sure there are some cricketers here, they'll probably understand. It's a close race. It's a close race. But yeah, I would still say the technical skills, and I know most of the people have different views on this, but I still believe that if you're handling diversified businesses, you need to be technically more skilled. Having said that, you definitely need to have people skills while dealing with other departments, whether it is sales, whether it is production. But I've also experienced that even there, if you bring something significant value on the table, and are open to learning, I keep saying you're open to learning, make a mistake, learn and move forward, then I think even you can get with those people also. So this is what I believe. I'm not sure how many people will disagree with me here, but I'm fine with that. If people disagree, I'm okay with that, my friend. I'm okay with that.
Thank you very much, Anand. Actually, this is very insightful discussions, and really we appreciated your time today for giving us a lot of advices about how to be a true business CFO. Now we are moving to the Q&A part, and Zishan will manage this part. So if anyone has any question, please drop it in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask the question to Anand. Thank you, Anand, and let's wait for the audience.
I hope you enjoyed the talk. I saw others. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Anand. It was a great pleasure.
Yes,
thank you very much, Mohammed and Anand, for such an insightful discussion, and it's I think quite from a very practical point of view. As Anand, he shared his own experience of business CFO. So just I think we have one question in the chat box from Steve, and he asked a very good question. I think that is in the mind of many professionals, and even at HOFT, many professionals ask the same question from us. How would you handle the situation when one or more key stakeholders only want a traditional CFO, bookish, not a business CFO? And I would just like to add it here also one point, the same question that we used to got from many finance professionals, like always like they want to play the role of finance business partner, or you can say more business centric role at the forefront, but their culture of their organization is so lousy. The chairman of the company or the key stakeholders, they don't want them to play more business centric role. They want them to stay just within their finance function boundaries. And so how you can handle this type of situation? I think it will be just add to Steve's question here.
Yeah, very interesting. Very, very interesting. I think we need to understand there are 4 P's, which I keep repeating. And you would have seen in my post also. That is passion, persistence, perseverance, and patience, these 4. Now, the thing is, as I started saying, that it is not an easy role. It's a very tricky role. It's at times a thankless role too. But so long as you have these 4 P's with you, and you have the confidence, your inner confidence. Your inner confidence is your inner confidence. Muhammad, no one can buy it. Steve, no one can get that confidence if you are confident within. If you are confident and if you are able to go and talk to your ownership with facts, I mentioned facts, figures, analysis, willing to listen to them too, okay, willing to change yourself if required, I'm sure they will find a value. I mean, I will probably give you an example of one of the groups which I know. It's an Abu Dhabi-based group, and it's a very diversified group. It's a big construction house, so to say. And I clearly remember in early 2000, between 2010 and 2014, I had some friends working there. And the situation of the ownership mindset was exactly what Steve and Muhammad has highlighted. There was an unwillingness to look for a business CFO because the general feeling was, look, we know everything. But the credit goes to the second line of the ownership, who were in the position to convince the founder chairman to say that, look, the times are changing. And yes, the group changed. The group changed. They brought a different breed of the CFOs, and the couple of points which I mentioned. So they changed. It's a difficult job, I agree. But then what's your choice? You want to be a bookish CFO, or else you want to really add some value which gives you the satisfaction. And as a business CFO, from your career perspective too, you definitely have more chances of going up. And with this pandemic, I think most of the owners have realized that it doesn't make sense to have a traditional CFO. For that, you can probably have a finance manager or someone like that. The business CFO role, as I initially explained you in my very first 10 minutes, has undergone a terrible change in these current times. And definitely, I think now and even post-COVID, I see that the most of the ownership will now be more willing to look at people, the business CFO, than a typical traditional CFOs. I hope it helps in understanding what I believe in.
Yeah, I think that's the right advice. And what do you think about building a brand? Like like we usually suggest also to our young and early to mid-career finance professionals, like they have to also focus on building their brand. Like if they're going to non-finance business function like sales, marketing, and they are talking in the accounting and finance terminology like prepaid accruals or IFRS, IAS, then of course I think they will perceive us as just a traditional finance professional. So I think, do you think like we also have to build our brand as a business partner or as a business CFO? Like branding also play a key role here?
Yes, it does. But how do you do it? Now, there are a couple of points which just come to me. First is, again, this is something which I have learned over experiences with ups and downs in my professional and personal life. So this is what I believe, that if you believe that you are competing with yourself every minute, every day, if you're competing with yourself, every minute, every day. So it means, am I doing better now than what I did yesterday? If you have that mindset, and again, this is not bookish. This is not bookish. It is practical. And if you are in the position to believe in this and imbibe this in you, half of your battle is won. Why? Because half of your ego space is gone, because you're willing to learn from people, or you're willing to accept if you made a mistake, you own it, and you move. And once you have this, then you go to other departments, other teams, you would find more acceptance. Because one thing, Mohammed, you need to recognize, if I go to a non-finance department, why should someone share things with me? Tell me one reason. The reason why people will share things with me when they find that I am going to add value to them. And that happens in every walk of life. Now, how do I add value to them? If I have to add a consistent value to them, again, I have to be open for learning. I make a mistake, own it. And am I competing with myself? And if yes, I'm pretty sure half of the branding is done. And that's more of the personal traits. Now, the other half is pertaining to the professional aspects. On the professional front, how do you build your brand? Well, people who are aware of new developments in the current times, like digital transformations, they're aware of what's happening around. They're active on the professional forums. They are willing to learn again professionally, pick up knowledge. Knowledge is key. Knowledge and experience go hand in hand, right? I mean, if you really have to be confident and build your brand, simple knowledge won't help. Knowledge backed by experience. So a brand, it's like an upward curve. There's no flattening of the curve, like what we keep talking nowadays. There's no flattening of the curve. You start building a brand, and it keeps building and building. You start with knowledge, you build your experience, and then you build a brand backed by the personal traits what I mentioned to you. Now, I'm pretty sure, but you see, Mohammed, the challenge is, like sometimes, like I had a couple of accountants in my group, and I asked them, and I don't know, people who are especially for young guys, maybe between 20 to 25 to 35, that age group, even later also, it takes time for them to understand, and then they will eventually understand it. But by then they would have lost many years, time would have run away. So it's not easy, something you learn by experience only, something you have to go to the grind to understand. But that's how is my take on a personal branding. I hope it helps.
Yeah, that's right. And we have one more question from Hisham. If you have two owners running the business, one concerns about profitability and other concerns about staff and customers, how can you manage the conflict provided that both hold the same control? Like it's a dilemma, you can say.
Both hold the same stake, so there is no senior junior. It's same. I mean, when you say same shareholding, is that also decision making same, or is it who has the final word?
You mean, like you can say, like there are two owners and they have a joint ownership, like both have the same control. You can say 50-50% they have, like two owners in the business.
See, again, if you're a business CFO, you will listen to your stakeholders. So the first thing I will do is don't discount them. Whether someone is more pro people and other is more profit people, listen to them. First, you have to hear them out and understand them the way they understand. Once you have heard them out, it will take some time and to communicate what you believe. And in this particular case, there is no right answer. You cannot be completely profit oriented, and you cannot be completely people oriented. So if you're a business CFO, you will feel that the best solution is to bring both the owners on the same table over a span of time and suggest to them what is best in the interest of the group. Because being pro people 100% doesn't help. Being pro 100% profit doesn't help. So you need to find some sort of midway solution, and with the skills that I've explained, and you have the willingness, you have the conviction, go ahead, my friend, you will succeed. I'm pretty confident about it. But as I said, it needs patience. Yes, it needs patience. So don't give up. Don't give up. And the satisfaction which you will get by doing it, you really can't count on fingers, Jishan. You can't count on fingers those things. It's such a sense of accomplishment when you can do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think being a business CFO, as you mentioned, they have to understand, I think, the full value creation process. And in the value creation, I think the employees, the customer, they are the actually one who drives value ultimately for the shareholders, right? For the and ultimately results in the profitability. What do you think? Like, it's like they are part of the value creation.
That's true, but the challenge here is you are dealing with the ownership. Now, please understand one thing, especially if it's a family-driven organization, owners have a right to think what they think is right, and I don't deny that. I mean, they're perfectly correct. Someone who has built the empire from the start, he has a right to think that he's right. I don't deny that. So what you said is maybe correct for all the other stakeholders, but if you're specifically dealing with true owners with a different mindset, please don't confuse them with your big talks on brand value. You need to win the confidence of those two people. You need to win the confidence first, and please understand what they are saying, and then take and arrive at a mid solution. Then talk about many other things. But if you start the day one saying, look, you are wrong, this is what should happen, you're bound to fail, because you're conveniently forgetting that those two owners are the owners because they have put that hard work, and you need to give them that credit. That is what I said. If you're a business CFO who's competing with himself every day and who's confidently from within, you won't mind taking 2 steps and try it out. If it doesn't work, you revisit your strategy. If it has not worked 10 times, you take the 11 steps, and you're there. So this is my take on when you talk about the brand value when it comes to dealing with the ownership.
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree with you. And I think if anyone has more questions, we have last 2 to 3 minutes left. If anyone has more question, they can just speak up, or they can just leave leave your message in the chat box.
Hi, Mohammed. My name is Naresh. Is there a possibility of a verbal question?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to place my accolades for Anand. Anand, this is Naresh Mafat. You've done fantastically well. And
nice to see you, my friend. Nice to see you. Finally, we have caught each other. Good.
Yeah, your experience speaks, in the depth of your communication. I just had a point on which your views will be very valuable.
Go ahead.
So you're talking about a business CFO. No matter how hard a finance professional, with whatever experience he has, he tries to have an in-depth knowledge about all the facets of a business. It's going to take him a lot of time. Plus, he's not going to be able to be like the jack of all trades. So if we have to draw like a pecking order in terms of priority, what would be the best admixture between finance and which function? Would it be technology? Would it be operations? Would it be marketing? Would it be legal? What's your view on it?
Yeah. You really have made me think. But here was the answer. Well, since he's getting into those areas which are not his core expertise, so you got to draw a line, as you rightly said. He has to draw a line. But if I have to prioritize, the first thing which I would imagine is the operations, because if you understand the operations, the few examples which I mentioned when I was talking about the processes, if you know the operations outside the finance team, whether it is sales, production, procurement process, and again, I'm not saying that you have to go complete deep dive. You don't have to become a salesman. You need to draw a line. Time is valuable, cost investment. Operations is the first priority if you have to get to the business CFO. The next in the current context is the digital part, because there cannot be any discussion in the current times without a business CFO not being aware of the digital transformation and the new developments. So, but I would rate it second, because if you know the operations part, well, there are other people who can probably guide you on the digital. So that's my second. The other areas of legal, and I can't remember other areas that you mentioned, but legals you mentioned about many of the, I think by default, the finance leaders anyway have some idea about the legal matters. They may not be the lawyers, but they do have something on their fingertips. So that comes by default. The point where they're lacking is the operations, and followed by the digital, and to an extent the people skill too. Because what happens, we guys over a span of time talk only in terms of numbers and talking only in terms of profits. Somewhere down the line, the people skills too. So half, maybe I would say 50% operations, 35% digital, and 15% be an HR man. And that's my recipe. for you, Naresh.
Wonderful. So hats off to you, Anand. That was a fantastic answer. Thank you, Mohammed, for allowing me to speak.
Okay, thank you very much, Shen. Okay, so now I think we are already reached to the end of the summit, end of this webinar. And if I think you have more question, you can feel free to send any question on the LinkedIn directly to Anand, or alternatively you can send to our email, and we can try to take offline as well any questions if you have, or just you can speak up for 1 or 2 minutes. We have last few minutes.
Well, thank you so much, Jishan and Mohammed, and all who could make time to hear this. I would, as I started the discussion, this is no textbook. I have just shared what I felt from my head and heart, and there's every room for improvement. There's every room for disagreement, and I'm fine with it. There were a lot of areas where I mentioned there could be second views. There can be a contradictory views, and I respect all the views. So it all depends on what you believe in professionally, personally. So take it, whatever I have said, you find some value in it, go ahead and do it. You think it's not relevant, take it out. You are the master of your life. You want to ask me anything, I'm there on the LinkedIn. I'm available on the mobile. Yeah, and unless I'm sleeping, I'm pretty prompt in responding. And few people who are in this group, like Mohammed, they know me. You will probably get a good and prompt response unless I'm sleeping. So don't worry, you get a response. I strongly believe that you need to be pretty quick in communication, because when you communicate properly, one message which you give to all the people is that you care about them. I mean, you may not be in the position to give a solution, but yes, you do care. And as human beings, we are professionals later. We are human beings first. So long as we give a message that I do care, I may not give a solution, but that's fine. So by all means, bother me, grill me. You're all there. I'm there. Thank you.
Okay, I think Anand, all the audience, I think they are sending the messages that it was a very great session, and thank you very much. And I think you shared a very practical advice, completely from your own, as you mentioned, from your heart and mind, from your rich corporate experience.
Heart and head. Both these, Jishan, these things go together. You can't be talking only from head, and you can't be thinking only from the heart. You need to have heart and head too.
Exactly.
You can't do otherwise, I guess. Yeah.
Exactly. So, Mohammed, we also thank you very much, and just your closing remarks, then we can wind up.
Thank you very much, Anand. It was a great pleasure having you today. Actually, I can see a lot of positive messages about your session, and I encourage everyone, if anyone has any questions, you can drop it to Anand, also in our HOFT platform over LinkedIn. And thank you very much, and looking forward for your attendance in the coming webinars. Thank you very much, and in the next webinar. Thank you, Anand, very much.
Thank you, everyone. Okay. Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you, Jishan, for inviting me. And let's hope for the best for everyone. Take care, my friends.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, all the audience, for your time today. And we love to see you in our upcoming sessions as well. And every Saturday, we have a session with different speakers. So we would love to see you again. And until then, take care and stay safe.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.